Tom, check the bank. Check your bank accounts. Check all your accounts.
Oh, okay.
Tip, tip,
Nope.
tip, tip, tap,
Yep.
tap, tap,
Yeah.
tap, tap. You got to check the moneymakers right now because of cryptocurrency. How's your crypto?
Ugh.
I know.
It's been explained to me 900,000 times. I don't get it, but I do know someone that has $1 or like $5 in Dogecoin just to go on the ride.
Yeah,
which I think is
that's
funny.
amusing too, but only for a little bit. And then I realized, it's also still stupid. And it's bad for the environment.
Okay.
And also, I bring you this news update from Poly Network, and I bring it just as a public service announcement. Don't use crypto because come on, like I get it. You feel like a freedom fighter in the economic war zone. You want to have your own thing, but it's destroying the environment, and people steal the hell out of it. And in this case, Poly Network, the hacker that they are now calling Mr. White Hat, stole, guess how many crypto dollars worth of crypto tokens? Go ahead and guess. Put a number to it.
White hats are supposed to be the good hackers.
You'd think, but this is a real twisty story. So let's start with when he was just Mr. Hat, how much would he have stolen?
I have no idea because I don't... Like how many coins?
No, it'd be the dollar value of what he stole in U.S. dollar fiat currency.
I would say... Oof, maybe like $12, $13?
$600 million.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Whoa!
So many dollars. He stole that. He stole that in crypto, and it was a vulnerability at Poly Networks that he was able to say, "Hey, I can't even say it," because he took the money from someplace and put it all in his own account with the institution.
So he stole from the bank and then put it in a safety deposit box in the same bank.
That's kind of what happened. But because of the nature of crypto and blockchain and words and things, in order to access it, there are two passwords needed. There's a public key and a private key, and those two things have to match up or pair together. And so without both of those things, the bank could not actually get the funds back. Well, he went from Mr. Hat to Mr. White Hat. It turns out I guess the story goes, it turns out he was able to, he wanted to showcase that this vulnerability existed. And that's when they added white to his hat. But this is the part that I like the best. He returned all of the money with the exception of $200 million. So he returned 400.
A finder's fee.
Yeah, he returned 400 and he kept 200. But this is what he said. He said he's going to give over his private key so they could get the money back, the last 200. But he was only going to do it, and this is a quote, when everyone is ready.
For what? What does that mean?
It's such a weird flex. I don't know what
makes me more anxious, of this story.
Yeah.
All of it? Him?
Yeah. No, all of it. And so this is so they eventually he said, I guess everybody was ready eventually. And so they ended up giving him the 200 million back.
Everybody was ready.
They gave
Bob? Bob, are you good? You're ready. Okay. Travis is still in the restroom.
Look what he got out of it. He got $500,000 as a bounty that they let him keep. And they offered him a job as chief security advisor, Mr. White Hat. They offered him a job. Yeah, it's all so sketchy. And so I'm just saying, this whole story makes me anxious that there are people who are literally playing with money like it is fake money. Like monopoly money, just throwing it around, taking massive slices of it and putting it away. And it makes me want to put my head under a mattress.
Along with your money?
Yeah, maybe it'll be there, but mostly it's my head. I don't care for it anymore. I'm ready to wake up.
Oh, I keep sinking into your blue, Yeah, I keep sinking into your blue.
Welcome to What's That Smell? A sometimes funny podcast about humans and their anxieties. I'm Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright.
And every week, we each drag one of our deepest, darkest anxieties into the light to share it, learn about it,
and hopefully laugh about it with all of you.
Reach out to us. Send us a story of your anxieties so we can learn about it and discuss it. Go to whatsthatsmell.net. Again, whatsthatsmell.net. And there's this great big button that I think says donate. And you could be anonymous. You can tell us whatever you want. It's going to be great. Friendship, teamwork. Pete?
With that, Tommy, you should go first.
Yeah, I keep sinking into your blue, right into you.
Pete, this week I have a harrowing tale to share. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, I love your spooky stories so much.
They're just spooky. Okay. As you know, I recently went on a trip to Minnesota to visit a bunch of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I was flying anywhere since the pandemic started. So already, as you can imagine, my anxiety was pretty high. Flying, I mean, I'm past my fear of, tail strikes that we talked about in the very episode 1 of this entire dumb podcast. Past my fear of tail strikes, I am not a nervous flyer, but I was nervous this time because it'd be the most people I've been around in enclosed spaces since March of last year. Well, it went great. And by great, I mean it was a disaster. The trip was amazing, but the trip there to Minnesota was terrible. Can I run it down for you real quick?
Please. I thought it was a great trip. I feel like you've been withholding.
Oh, the trip was outstanding, but the travel, Pete, the travel. So I was on Southwest Airlines, as is my want.
Mm-hmm. Were you in row 13?
I was not in row 13. No, I had them remove it. I had a layover in Austin because that's how Southwest wanted to do it. Yeah. And during my layover in Austin, I was having a little sandwich, and then I got a text that my next flight to Minnesota was canceled. And they rebooked me on a flight the next day at 5:30 a.m. Wow. Quite a move, Southwest. So I'm like, no. And I go up to talk to customer service, and the entire plane is there before me, of course, because I was finishing my little sandwich. And so there's like 50, 60 people all in a row waiting, and there's one person at the desk. So I said, not today, Southwest. And I sat down, and I got out my laptop, and I checked around, and I found out that there was a flight leaving from Delta, from the same airport, from Delta, in about an hour.
You're going to change airlines now?
Yeah.
Now is when you decide to change airlines.
This was my plan. Oh, no, it was like 2 hours away. Anyway, so now I was going to change it because Southwest had nothing.
I am rocked with anxiety right now.
I just imagine my temperature, not my anxiety temperature during the story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, great. So I'm not getting a hotel or anything. I'm doing fine. Ooh, what's the one thing I forgot? Southwest has my bag. Because I checked the bag.
Crying out loud.
It was over a week trip. And so I was like, hey, Southwest, I need my bag because I Delta. And they said, that's no problem. We're going to bring everyone's bags off. And then I watched as they brought every single other person's bag and then an entire other plane of bags. I'm down in baggage control. Baggage control? Baggage control. Baggage claim. And they can't find my bag. They don't know. It's enormous. It's purple. It's ridiculous. And they're like, look, because they're just like dripping and drabbing. And so I'm waiting and I'm being very nice to everybody. But I do say to the lady, I say, none of this is your fault. I realize, but Southwest is about to make me miss my second flight in a row. She presses on the gas. They find my bag, but I'm way out of time now. I leave. I come back. Delta.
Now you're a Delta customer, magically.
Now I'm a Delta customer, exactly. I have my new I switched t-shirts, and I wait in the baggage drop line, which is enormously long, and it's everyone's first day because there's 3 people behind the counter of Delta, and I at one point watch them. Oh, every time someone comes up with a bag, it's just a baggage drop. It's supposed to be a pretty quick one. They have to make a phone call. Like they don't know how to do things. And then at one point, and I timed this for fun, for 8 minutes, that one of them found that one of the passengers that was in line ahead of me had left their ID. And for 8 minutes, they stopped helping anyone. And they all grouped around trying to figure out how to use the overhead microphone system. And so people are piling up behind me. It's all a complete disaster. I finally get up to the front and I say, hi, ma'am. my plane is leaving in like 40 minutes. Do you think I will make it? And she goes, your bag will. And I said, okay, well, I don't want to give you my bag if I'm going to be staying here overnight. Right. Because one of the things is why I had to get it off Southwest is the cabin that we were staying in Minnesota was 4 hours up in the mountains away from the airport. So there was no like just chill or they'll deliver it to me. I needed the bag. And so I asked, do you think I'll make it? She goes, maybe. And I was like, all right.
Not helpful. At what point did you put on your captain's hat and just to try to Leo DiCaprio, catch me if you can it, into the cabin?
Hello, I'm Mr. Plane. I don't even use the word pilot. Anyway, she goes, well, let's see. Do you have pre-check? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, there's the pre-check line right there. I have the picture that I took. Do you want to see the picture?
I would love to.
This is the pre-check line. For those that are not joining us on live stream, there are hundreds of people in line, and that's the pre-check line. So that's when I finally went, okay, this isn't going to work. And I just went outside and started calling hotels to get a hotel for the night. So yes, I was getting more and more anxious. And then it was kind of wonderful. It got so insane when I was waiting for my bag that I just hit the limit and it subsided. And I got very zen about it. Of like, okay, even if this doesn't work out, I will live. And with all of that you can agree is kind of a travel disaster.
Yeah.
Correct. I left the next day at 5:30. I had a layover in Denver to go to Minnesota. None of it makes sense. But none of those things, the one thing that didn't happen was the thing that I was most worried about. And that's a testament to how much anxiety I have over this. What do you think didn't happen that I was afraid that would?
Hijacking, kidnapping.
You're in the right area, but I'm going to pull back a little bit.
Okay.
What have we been hearing about a lot lately? Unruly passengers. And apparently the press has decided that's what we're calling them.
Yeah.
Unruly or disruptive passengers. Yeah. I call them plane jerks.
By all rights, at this point, you should have been one of them. Like, you should not be afraid of them. They should be afraid of you.
But I was such a gentleman, Pete.
Yeah, I believe it.
With my little plain man's hat. No, unless you have not looked at a newspaper or news, you know that unruly passengers are on the rise.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere. The FAA has been reporting a record high of people being disruptive on planes and causing in-flight emergencies. Do you want to know how much it's increased?
Yes, 1,000%.
In 2019, there were 146 cases.
Okay.
2020, 183.
Okay.
Since January 1st of 2021, there have been over 4,000 reports and over 700 investigations initiated. Now,
God.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad that the FAA released a PSA about it. You know, all those PSAs that the FAA releases?
Yeah.
That's not a thing. They've never had to do that before. Let's take a listen.
We got a disruptive customer in the back. Declare an emergency. We'd like to divert. As there's no signal going on. He is restrained now. The unruly passenger, we need to get off the airplane. 16 authorities on the ground? Yeah.
Unruly behavior doesn't fly. Nice. FAA with their little wordplay.
My God. Do you know, I feel like I heard Jigsaw in the background. Was this like Saw 9?
Yeah.
That was horrific.
Yeah, the FAA is not kidding around because it's getting that bad. And the research I did for this didn't make me feel better, because one of the ways that I was making myself feel better is no one writes articles about planes where people don't act up.
Yeah.
And so that's happening all the time. But you've seen the pictures. People are being duct taped to seats. I mean, it is really bad. Now, before I go on, I want to ask, have you flown since the pandemic? And if so, were you nervous about, did you even think to be nervous about unruly passengers?
No, and yes, and that's why.
Really?
Like, I feel like I'm done flying for the indefinite future. Like, I have no plans to fly. I have no need to fly. If I need to take a trip, I am fine driving, renting a car, driving. Like, I'm really fine not flying right now.
And how much of that has to do with corona and how much of that has to do with people?
It's all both. I just think the entire experience of flying is raises my anxiety levels to the point that it's not. I've never loved flying. I've never loved.
So it was already in the doghouse, and then the world burned down.
Yeah, and then the world burned down. It was like you're just going to go close the door on it. You know, I'm really fine not flying right now. I'm okay.
Okay. Well, do you want to know what you're missing?
I feel like Jigsaw just says behavior?
It. Yeah. I have some more things just to tell you. The FAA, in addition to the PSA, is hitting back. On August 19th of this year, so just a few days ago, the FAA announced over $500,000 in fines on just 34 unruly passengers. That's bringing this year's total so far to 1 million. Almost all incidents involve the mask mandate and people freaking out about that. But this is my favorite. Federal documents show that 9 of the 34 incidents involve a passenger accused of touching or hitting another person, especially crew members. 8 passengers are accused of illegally drinking alcohol they brought with them. And then this is my favorite sentence of the entire thing. Half of the incidents involve flights to or from vacation destinations in Florida because of course they do. If it wasn't Florida, it'd be Vegas, and they're probably just going to Florida, Vegas, and back to Florida.
Right. Oh my goodness.
The largest fine announced just the other week, $45,000, is against a passenger. Oh, see if this sounds familiar. Is against a passenger accused of throwing his luggage at another passenger. And while lying on the aisle floor, grabbing a flight attendant by the ankles and putting his head up her skirt.
What?
That's true. And that was from New York to Orlando. They had to land the plane early in Virginia. What's happening? Like, that is beyond the pale. That's insane. Have you ever seen anything?
I don't know what to do with this.
Have you ever seen anything like remarkable on a flight? Like people really acting up? This is all like so anticipatory for me because I really haven't. I've seen like little jerks and stuff, but just more like a shrug of the shoulders, nothing insane.
Yeah, and I think even when you look at 4,000 incidents, right? I mean, what we're talking about compared to the total population of flight, the odds of running into that experience are probably slim, especially if you're not going to or from Florida. So it sounds like you can really dodge this if you route around certain airports and flights.
Yeah. I mean, and when I traveled to Minnesota, everyone was very polite. Yeah. Even as planes are being canceled, Austin Airport is a disaster.
Minnesota. I mean, come on. In or out of Minnesota, it's the kindness state.
They are. And so I'd wanted to do a little bit of research just in like why flights.
Mm-hmm.
And I did find something. Can I read you just a little bit more of something?
Of course. I love it when you read to me.
Back in 2016, the Washington Post wrote an article about why people are plane jerks. This is back in 2016. Mm-hmm. So on top of all of this stuff, you have to add, and the world burned down. Right. They interviewed a clinical psychologist named Martin Seif. And here's a quote from the article. Whether people are consciously aware of it or not, a plane is a unique environment that forces us to confront the uncomfortable existential truth that we have no control over what happens. That's what he's saying. It's like boiled down to everything is out of your hands. He says, none of us like to feel out of control. And in fact, we are almost never in control. But we have the illusion that we're in control. And it's very, very hard to maintain that illusion on a plane. I don't know if that leads to you putting your head up someone's skirt. Yeah. Or maybe it does, just to feel life, to do whatever you need to do to feel like you're in charge. I'm not exactly sure. It doesn't seem to answer a lot of that. One other quick thing he said was the term fear of flying is a misnomer. It's fears of flying. Because a plane is a perfect storm, a connection of all these different fears, like enclosed spaces, like you're afraid of heights, germophobia, social anxiety, terrorist attacks, all of these things. It's coming at you from all different places. And now, of course, everything is so much scarier with the pandemic. That's what I call it.
Pandemic. Well, yeah. and now, and that leads you not just to have the anxieties coming at you, but to realize that it's gone full Hunger Games.
Correct. One thing, I did spend a little bit of time thinking about why this was affecting me so much.
Yeah.
Like, what was I really worried about. Why was it so? Sometimes my anxiety comes from just being agitated or something is rubbing me really the wrong way. And we know from past episodes, I can't stand it when people act like they're the only people in the world. People that stand in doorways or just stare at the ketchup while I'm trying to get by. And I can't stand it when people think that they're somehow heroes for being independent and not sticking up for the public good. And this, or the common good. And this hits all of those right away.
Right.
So I think what's really bothers me is just the horrible indecency, the unfairness of it. I think I'm responding to justice or the lack of,
you are.
which is weird. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't think I'd get involved. Or maybe there is a weird taken Liam Neeson part of me that would be so offended, I think I would have to get involved. And that's going to be a lose-lose, Pete. I'm not taking anyone down. If anything, I will accidentally be like, fine, and I'll let myself out of the airplane. Like, no one's afraid of this guy.
Oh my God. I can hear that now. Boop, beep, beep, boop, boop. This is Tommy Matz III. I have a unique set of skills. Wait, do I really?
I have a unique set of skills. One of them is not shop class. Yeah, so I think it just agitates me so much that it just sort of boils over as anxiety.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do about it except realize, again, to state the obvious, they don't write, like you said, they don't write articles about planes where nobody acts up.
That's
and they're
true.
happening all the time, every time. So I have another trip coming up, potentially.
Why?
Because I want to play that lottery. And I want to see what was up that screen the whole time.
Hello, Tampa.
Advertising is a tricky business, as Todd Davis, CEO of LifeLock, an identity theft protection company based in Tempe, Arizona, found out. In 2006, in an attempt to show that their security system was flawless, the company, LifeLock, put up hundreds of billboards with Todd Davis's image and his actual social security number. Under it, copy read, "I'm Todd Davis, CEO of LifeLock. Yes, that really is my social security number. No, I'm not crazy. I'm just so sure our system works. Just like we have with mine, LifeLock will make your personal information useless to a criminal. And it's guaranteed." End quote. This was a striking claim, and people took notice. And by people, I mean hackers. Over the next few years, Davis became the victim of identity theft 13 times. Fake Todd Davises popped up around the country racking up debts. Ultimately, by the way, in 2015, the company, LifeLock, was ordered to pay $100 million to settle Federal Trade Commission charges of failing to protect consumer information and, yes, deceptive advertising. So, advertising is tricky. So think of this as less of an ad and more of a friendly call to action. Like what you've been hearing? Why not join the What's That Smell growing family and become a Panic Pal today? For just a one-time donation of $35, you'll help cover the costs for Season 6. That's this one. And for that low price, you'll also get, count them off, early access to episodes, access to live streams so you can see what my dog does in the background while we record, special bonus episodes, a sheet of exclusive What's That Smell anxiety coupons, and more. And by more, I mean stickers. We love doing this show, but it's not free to make, so please donate today and help us make Season 6 the best season of any podcast ever, and that's guaranteed. And now, on with the show.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Pete.
I want you to watch something.
Oh, okay, and cue my anxiety. Oh, that looks very high. Ah! Yikes! Why does that exist?
Do you see down there? There are actually rescue divers in the pool.
Because it's, oh my, this is the highest. Wait, they're not off of a building. That's like made to do this?
Yeah.
Oh, and they're doing that thing that the Olympics do where they have a water jet so you can see where the water.
Yeah. It just twists your stomach, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm scared for the photographer. Wait,
there is. Oh, yeah,
it's a drone. Okay,
that's a drone,
wow.
But there are photographers there. So that what you're looking at there is the Red Bull, of course,
Of course.
high diving platform. It is
In Florida?
27 meters. No, it's at the Olympic Center in Salt Lake in Utah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and so that's what you can see in the background, and I'll put the link in the show notes to this video. You can see in the background all the ski jumps, right? They have all these, and they are actually, that's one of the other sports they're doing. They have all the people, and they dress up in their little ski outfits, and they go down and they dry ski those jumps, and they do all kinds of aerial flips and stuff and land in the
Into the
water,
water?
too. Yeah, it's really,
that's fun.
but they do it dressed. It's very, very strange. Anyway, so they, this was in partnership with, I guess, another YouTuber who has a channel devoted to cliff diving and learning how to cliff dive and do it right. So they built this 27 meter, 90 or so feet platform dive. Now, and they have different dives you can see down there. You have different levels. So you can get to the 5 meter, 10 meter,
Right.
15 meter before they get up to 27. And then they each take turns doing their crazy flips. And they have some professional divers in here. You watch the video, it's like 15 minutes long. You watch the video, you see them doing flips and pikes and twists and doubles and all kinds of things that I don't understand.
Check you out.
And it's it is just a heart-sinking, just sort of gut-wrenching thing to watch this video. It twists me inside out to watch it, and it has had me thinking a little bit, and I should say I've been thinking a little bit about this particular thing for probably 7 years.
Okay.
And I didn't think it gave me much anxiety. I'm not specifically talking about jumping off of high buildings into pools of water, but specifically thinking about water. And then we got a listener submission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this
Exciting.
is a great excuse to talk a little bit about water. Here we go.
Okay.
I know you guys have talked about marshes and lakes and oceans and muck water.
Yep.
But have you ever covered just plain water? I'm an adult, and I'm really struggling with the idea of getting in the water for anything more than splashing around. I have no stamina. The idea of being in over my head with nothing under my feet is terrifying. I never thought of myself as scared of swimming, but it turns out that all that childhood fearlessness eventually turns to ash. Hope you guys take this on. Thanks for the fun, Brett.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Brett or Brad?
Brett. Yes.
Thank you
Brett.
so much for writing. When I was growing up, can I just start talking?
Sure.
Is that how conversations work?
It's your show, man.
Great. When I was growing up, when I was in 9th grade, I was getting certified to go scuba diving because when I was in 8th grade, because in 9th grade, there was a class trip that kids worked all summer, the summer before, and then we would go to Australia. And my whole family decided we'll all go do it together because why not? And so we went through all the classes, and then came time to actually go to the pool to do it. And that's when I learned that my mother had a horrible fear that she had been hiding from us about putting her face underwater.
Oh, my goodness.
This whole time. And she just had this, I wonder where I get it. She had this mounting anxiety week by week as we got closer and closer to it, and finally sort of broke down and just told my dad, I don't think I can do it. And so she had to drop out. So I just wanted to say that because it lets me say mother. And
yes, a lot.
Brett, you are not alone.
You are really not alone. And there are a few things that I thought were interesting about this. First of all, Paul Lennon is a man by the name of Paul Lennon. That was weird.
Wait, what?
The phobia we're talking about today is aquaphobia, right? We've talked about limnophobia. That was the muck water thing. It's actually the fear of marshes or lakes. And then I went into my open water thing. And so we're talking about aquaphobia. It is a specific phobia. It involves a level of fear that is beyond the patient's control, may interfere with daily life. People suffer from aquaphobia in many ways and may experience it even though they realize the water in an ocean, river, or even a bathtub poses no imminent threat. They thereby avoid activities such as boating or swimming. They avoid swimming in deep ocean despite having mastered basic swimming skills, right? You can swim and be terrified of the water at the same time. The anxiety commonly extends to getting wet or splashed with water when it is unexpected or being pushed or thrown into a body of water. So lots of different ways to sort of characterize a fear of water, but it can be any experience where you are out of control in the water. And so this is the piece I thought was interesting. Paul Lennon is a founder of the Adult Aquaphobia Swim Center in Glendale, California.
Is that the guy that goes by the name of Paul Lennon?
He says here that people have difficulties adjusting physiologically and psychologically to weightlessness environments, right? In the water. They have difficulty doing that. And because it changes your sensory environment, right? Your skin changes, and some people have a difficult time adjusting to that. He goes on, like the fear of heights, the fear of depths is a defense mechanism. How, right? That was a new way of thinking about it to me. Fear of depths. Our recreational culture, this is the sort of sociological challenge. Our recreational culture makes us believe that swimming and water sports are a normal part of life. And that this is one of the most common things he hears from people who come to his center, is that being a non-swimmer is a social handicap.
You put it sort of just up there with like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Everyone just does it.
Everyone
and then
just
you're
does
like,
it.
you don't?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. You never got your driver's license? Like that might be another one that's just kind of a thing. But this one causes that sort of paralyzing fear. And here is the thing that's just so sad about the whole thing. And it's the cruelest of the anxiety ironies. This fear inevitably leads to more drownings every year.
Oh, no, wait. I don't get it. That seems opposite.
What are we doing here right now? Because those who are afraid of water don't learn to swim. Those who can't swim are susceptible to drowning. And if they become unexpectedly immersed in water, that fear turns to panic, and they start reacting as if they're drowning. Before they even start to drown, they can't save themselves. It leads to drowning. Right?
Oof. So much drowning.
I know. All in a row. It's just a lot of drowning.
That does make sense. When I said I didn't understand, it was because I was like, but avoidance would keep you out of the water. But you're saying, right.
Yeah.
You never really got to practice.
So what's your relationship to this besides mother?
I think drowning would be the worst way to die. And I'm on record.
I've heard it's actually okay, right? Haven't you heard that?
Yes, we do have
so weird.
We do have a common friend who I will not name here, Darnell, and he was told by the Navy. I think, we've talked about this on the podcast. He was told by the Navy that drowning is a great way to go because it's just like falling asleep in a nap. A panicky, screamy nap. Don't believe what the Navy tells you. They also tell you that submarines are cool.
Are you a strong swimmer? Would you call yourself a strong swimmer?
Yes.
Do you know all the strokes?
2. I know crawl and breaststroke.
Breaststroke. Do you know the Hooba stroke?
Is that like Hoobastaine?
Yeah, it's just like Hoobastaine.
Okay,
I was just trying to trick you. It's not actually. It's an unnamed mystery tool that handymen use. Backstroke, of course, and butterfly. And I look at you and I think that's a butterfly right there. You, Tom, you could butterfly.
Thank you. That would be how I would drown.
Yeah, it would be. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would immediately my arms would somehow get tied together by just doing it wrong. No, I don't have that fear. I am a very strong swimmer, and that's one of the exercises that I liked to do before pools all seemed to close.
Really?
Yeah, I like lane swimming.
Really? I've known you for years, and I don't think I knew this about you.
You never invite me out lane swimming.
Also, who says that? Lane swimming.
Is that not... laps.
Lane swimming, I think is what you say. You like swimming laps. Laps.
Okay. Laps. Because I like the fear of depths. I don't like it. I like the idea of the fear of depths, and I do think that the lack of leverage is alarming.
Yes, you can't push off something.
Because it's kind of like space, too. You can't, And so that is scary. How about you?
No, and that's why I was so excited to take on this one, because I also, I think I feel a similar feeling. Let me get into it.
Oh.
And I should say the extent of my swimming in the last, 25 years has been like splashing around in a pool and like pretending I'm Spider-Man underwater, because that's also dope.
Yeah. So you don't do a lot of lane laps? That's what we call it.
This is the interesting thing. Continuing that article I told you earlier, the common goal of preventing drowning is to teach children how to swim. That's like the prevailing wisdom. Teach everybody how to swim, right? And eventually then there won't be any adults left who can't swim. And if every person is a swimmer, then drowning would just plummet to zero. But this is the question, they say at the swim center. This is a biggie. What defines a swimmer, right? How do you define a swimmer? The American Red Cross says that a swimmer is somebody who can swim X yards. We, the Swimming Adult Aquaphobia Swim Center, says that a swimmer is somebody who can stay afloat in deep and open water until help arrives, whether it's 10 minutes or 4 days. That distinction is in the definition is the difference between survival and drowning. So what does it mean to be a swimmer? There's no common definition, right? You have to just sort of give over to faith.
When are you a swimmer instead of splashing around?
Right. You have to kind of adjust your risk tolerance depending on how you feel about your swimming, your swim skills. 4 days is a long time.
That's unheard of. That's unheard of. I say no to that.
No, I don't know what to do with that. Moving on.
Yeah.
Authors of a study, Aquaphobia, Causes and Symptoms and Ways of Overcoming It for Future Well-Being, talked to 400 students about water safety and asked and in a survey, 80% of them admitted to being afraid of deep water in pools and deep open water. 46% of American adults are afraid of deep water in pools, and 64% are afraid of deep open water.
Sure.
That's a large part of the population.
That is surprisingly large. Well,
and I'll say this is from a Gallup poll done in 1998. That's the last statistic I could find that actually comes. So what do you think the odds are that the American adult population has just suddenly gotten more confident in their ability in the water over the last 23 years?
A lot of Americans have gotten more buoyant.
Are you talking to me right now?
Never! Of course not.
Jeez, man. Okay, a couple of things. Here are the reasons that the writers of this journal article, the Aquaphobia article, say. They lay out in the link to the articles in the show notes. They lay out for the reasons for fear of water, aquaphobia. Instinctive fear of drowning is number one. That seems right over the plate.
Bullet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tension caused when swimmer moves head out of water to inhale. Experienced even by top competitive swimmers, this fear eventually disturbs the natural poise of the swimmer's head, neck, and back, which leads to becoming heavier and having a more difficult movement in the water. And so, again, goes back to the cruel irony of fear of water. When you get in the water, it's your panic that causes you to fail in the water. And that's
so self-fulfilling.
It is. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, this is where the next two I'm very excited about in terms of, fear of drowning.
Sure.
Number 2, a person has experienced an incident of personal horror in the water. Tom, that's big T trauma. I don't know if you remember from just last week, we were introduced to big T, little t trauma. And that's what this is, that there has been some prior experience that causes you to remember your trauma in the water. And I've told you on this very show, my big T trauma in the water, where I felt like I was nearly drowning in the whirlpool in the river. That's a horrific thing to experience. Yes. And as I'm writing this, I'm thinking, maybe that's why I don't.
You got a big T.
Yeah, I might have a big T. I got a big T.
Yeah.
Number 3, a person has at least one parent who is overprotective or with aquaphobia. This is the be careful paradox that we talked about last week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Coming up last week.
Coming up last week. You know what? Just turn it off and go listen to last week again. That's probably a better show anyway.
Yeah.
And the last 2, a person has a psychological difficulty adjusting to the water, or a person lacks trust in the water. Those are the last 2, that you don't feel like you have any sort of support when you're swimming or teaching or being taught to swim. That's the leverage part, right?
Yeah.
And the last one that I'm adding is social anxiety. And for this, I would like to call your attention to one Simone Biles. You know who Simone Biles is? Do you? Have you heard of her?
Olympics?
Oh my gosh. Really?
No.
You didn't watch any Olympics? I mean, you just said it with such a question mark at the end. Olympic? Yes, she's only the most famous Olympic athlete right now.
Oh, really, Michael Phelps?
Yeah, well, he's not doing it anymore. She's a current gymnast, and she just had her big thing because she got the yips, right?
Oh,
she got the
Well,
twisties.
there was two. There were. Oh, right. Okay, yes, I know who this is because I saw a clip.
Do you know what the twisties are?
No.
That's what she suffered from, the twisties. And so what that is, she is one of those gymnasts who, legendarily young age, she was able to spot herself in the air. She had what they called air sense, where she could jump off a vault and do all kinds of twisting around and always know where her body was in space. Like her brain was just super attuned in all the dimensions that are required to know where your body is. So she could always land on her feet.
Oh, I see.
Right? She's like a cat. Yeah, she was like a cat. Well, what happened in Tokyo is that she lost her air sense. And that is incredibly dangerous for a gymnast because you're throwing yourself in the air, you lose where you are in space, you land on your neck, right? That's a bad way to go out on your Olympic dream. So, also, it could kill you. So,
is it really called the twisties, or did you make that up?
No, I don't think I made that up.
It just sounds like something you made up.
Yeah. No, twisties mentioned by Simone Biles are gymnasts' worst. Huh. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't make that up, but you know what? Thank you.
Oh.
That's a high compliment.
Oh, that's why you compared it to the yips.
Because that's Ted Lasso.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And Tin Cup.
And Tin Cup. Also Tin Cup. Yes. Good. Okay. So back to Simone Biles. And I don't know what it's called, the aquis, the splashies, but when you get in the water, you submerge yourself in the water and suddenly you lose your sense of space in the water because, again, you have no leverage. You have no, it's hard to feel where you are in the water. And that leads to this sense of anxiety, of uncertainty and doubt.
Oof.
That I'm alleging that one. All the others were in their article, but that's what I think might be going on. It's certainly what I deal with, and then of course you have the symptoms that you get dizzy and numb and hyperventilate and shortness of breath and increased heart rate and sweating in the water and shivering in the water. It's all terrifying. Yeah, it's all terrifying. So that's where we are, and that's why aquaphobia it's a legit big deal for a lot of people, and they're not talking about it, right? They're carrying it around. And so Brett brings it up here. I'm telling you, I've got a whole family of swimmers, like competitive swimmers, and I'm the one who doesn't get in the pool. And so I've been thinking for years, what's it going to take to get me back in the water? To really, as an adult, like I took swim lessons as a kid and I did all that. I did the strokes and I know mechanically what they're supposed to look like. But there is a real bit of social anxiety that as an almost 50-year-old man, I'm going back and learning something that I should have really solidified and continued through the rest of my life. And I haven't been in a pool in a lot of years, like measured in decades.
Decades. Yeah. Oh, now I know better what we're talking about. Well, that makes sense that you would have apprehension about that.
Yeah.
And are you worried of those things? Like, are you worried about catching a case of the can't breathies? Or like that's the technical term. The splashies. The splashies,
of course. I'm nervous about the splashies. Yes. Well, then I'm in this conversation with our mutual friend, JJ, and we're in a text conversation, and one of the other people on this text thread says, I really need to work on my shoulders because they've always looked weak. And JJ says, swim. And I don't know, I'm just going to say this out loud about JJ. He's a handsome man, and he's got great shoulders. He's a long drink of water, and he was a swimmer for a lot of years, right?
Right.
He loves the water, and he responded. He was like, swimming will crush your problem with shoulders. They will be amazing once you start swimming regularly.
Okay.
And I got to thinking, okay, let's talk about more reasons that I need to really get over this and get over the hump and call somebody who can help teach me to swim, because I would never ask my family to do it.
Okay. So you want to take a lesson. You want to be formally reintroduced to make sure that you're on, well, I shouldn't say stable ground, but that you're doing it safely.
I want to do it safely. I don't want to hurt myself, and I want to start doing all the things. I want to improve my stamina. I want to do all that. So that's what I'm thinking in my head. So let's start looking at like how good is swimming? Is there a compelling reason? Like, why don't I just go running? Right? I mean, I can just go run.
Impact.
So the Stephen Blair is the professor of the Departments of Exercise Science and Biostatistics and Epidemiology at the University of South Carolina's Arnold School of Public Health.
Oof,
I know. He's so busy. I don't know how he is a professor.
He's so busy. If he is just busy with like half those words, he's not getting enough sleep.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what he did.
Oh, no.
He evaluated 32 years worth of physical exams and behavioral surveys of more than 40,000 men enrolled in the Aerobics Center longitudinal study. And during a 13-year follow-up period, which took into account age, body mass, smoking status, alcohol intake, and family history, swimmers had a nearly 50% lower death rate than runners and walkers specifically.
Whoa! 50%.
It does here say there is no compelling reason to assume that the benefits of swimming would be different for women, because he was just looking at men in this study.
Sure.
He also says we did not take into account the benefits of walking.
Oh,
yeah.
I should be in the Olympics.
What do you think?
Wow.
What do you
that's
think
compelling.
of this? Right?
Because the thing that I've always liked about swimming is that it's non-impact.
Yeah.
Running and stuff like that, you end up hurting, especially as you get older, you hurt your knees and your back and other.
Yeah.
That's it. And what's the word for non-impact?
Low impact, reduced impact, zero impact.
Yeah.
Floaty.
But I would have had no idea that it was that.
It's serious.
Significant.
It's serious.
So is that enough of a pro-turrent?
It might be. I have a whole bunch of tabs open researching for this show, and also have behind it tabs open for our local rec centers. Like, do they have adult beginning classes? Like, just to get in the pool and start doing it. I'm thinking I might do it. And I can't tell anybody either. So I have to start it before this show goes out. Who am I kidding? Nobody listens to this show in my house.
They're all too busy splashing around.
So that's my plan. That's my plan.
I love it.
I just have to say, Brett, I hope let's be accountability buddies. All right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You should. You know what we have, which we've never told people about? Our Discord server. We have a channel in Discord, and you can join it. And I'll put that on the website too, so you can come over and talk about your anxiety with us, and we'll be accountability friends and help each other learn to swim again. It'll be great. What do you think?
Good.
Why are you just staring at me?
You were talking.
You're like a taxidermy dog.
You were. How dare you? I was using conversation face.
Yeah, I keep sinking into your blue, right into you.
Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. This week's tune is Sinking by Jane and the Boy. Coming up next week.
Also, it can kill you. And by the way, Dad, we're comparing you to a otherwise healthy baby who has not eaten for the last few hours.
Now get out and fix the fence. The soup you sent me is horny as hell. This soup is a thirsty. Man, oh man.
Do you know why? Because nobody brings Pharaoh to a party. Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm having a Super Bowl party. Could you bring the Pharaoh? No. You know why? You're not even invited to that party if you were a candidate for Pharaoh. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III. Thank you so much for downloading. We will be back next week on What's That Smell?